The content of this video is for informational and educational purposes only. It does not replace professional advice or treatment provided by qualified professionals. If you have any concerns, discomfort, or situations affecting your mental or sexual health, you're encouraged to seek support from qualified professionals. Hello everyone, I'm Hope, the founder of Here to Cope, and welcome to my first video. Today, we're going to discuss one of the foundations of human sexuality: kinks, fetishes, and paraphilias. Human sexuality is highly varied and complex. Some individuals find arousal in practices, objects, or situations that fall outside conventional sexuality. These phenomena are often referred to as kinks, fetishes, or paraphilias. While they may appear similar at first glance, each one has distinct characteristics and involves different limits and risks for an individual's mental and physical health. In this video, we will aim to distinguish between these categories, explore the factors that influence them, identify which may pose risks to oneself or others, and provide guidance on managing them safely. So, let's begin with kinks. In human sexuality, the term kink refers to a range of non-conventional sexual practices, often associated with BDSM. Examples of kinky practices include wax play, bondage, spanking, funny play, and other domination, submission, or erotic humiliation activities. All of these practices, when performed, are based on mutual consent and a system of signals indicating, for instance, when to stop or slow down. The term vanilla is used in contrast to kinky to describe more conventional sexual practices like the missionary position. Although kink is often used to refer to fetishistic practices as well, there is a fundamental difference. Kink is primarily based on the relationship with the partner. Being kinky does not require arousal from pain, bondage, or humiliation. Some practices have become mainstream enough to be part of normative or vanilla sexuality, such as spanking, sensation play, or using handcuffs or blindfolds. A study conducted in Canada and Belgium found out that about half of the people are interested or have experimented with BDSM-related practices. Furthermore, to counter the idea that certain sexual fantasies originate from traumatic experiences or are linked to mental disorders, both studies examined psychological traits in individuals who practice BDSM versus those who do not. The results showed that BDSM practitioners had lower levels of neuroticism, were more extroverted, open to new experiences, less sensitive to rejection, and reported higher levels of subjective well-being. Let's continue by talking about fetishes. Fetishism is a form of sexual deviation in which erotic desire and the ability to achieve sexual satisfaction is focused on an object, a part of another person's body, or a specific situation. Typically, the person engaging in fetishistic behavior derives sexual satisfaction primarily through the perception of elements such as clothing, footwear, hands, feet, or hair. For the fetishist, these stimuli acquire the power to excite and lead to sexual pleasure even though they normally do not possess such potency. Fetishism is one of the most common forms of sexual deviation, in which pleasure is experienced exclusively in contact with a specific object, body part, or situation. Fetishism falls under the category of paraphilias, which will be discussed later in the video. It is characterized by a displacement of sexual pleasure from the person to a substitute, such as a partner's body part or any inanimate object. In some cases, the presence of this object is important if not essential. For some fetishists, seeing, touching, smelling, or otherwise interacting with the object of attraction can be more important than normal sexual intercourse. The most common fetish objects include fabrics and materials, as well as specific clothing items, specific body parts, biological fluids or excretions, physical characteristics, particular traits or conditions. The last category we will talk about is paraphilias. Paraphilias involve repeated intense sexually arousing fantasies or behaviors that typically involve inanimate objects, non-consenting children or adults, or the suffering and humiliation of oneself or a partner. Paraphilic disorders are paraphilias that cause distress or functional problems for the individual or may cause distress to others. There are different types of paraphilias. A paraphilia may focus on certain objects, situations, animals, or people, and sexual arousal depends on their presence or use. Once established, usually in late childhood or early puberty, these patterns often persist throughout life. A certain variety in sexual activity is common in the relationships and fantasies of healthy adults. When both partners accept such practices, unusual sexual behaviors are not harmful. However, when sexual behaviors cause distress, pain, or interfere with daily functioning, they are classified as paraphilic disorders. The most common paraphilic disorders include voyeurism, exhibitionism, frotteurism, sexual masochism disorder, sexual sadism disorder, pedophilia, and transvestic disorder. Most individuals with paraphilic disorders are male, and many present multiple paraphilic disorders. Some also have severe personality disorders such as antisocial or narcissistic personality disorder. But what are the causes? The causes of kinks, fetishes, and paraphilias are complex and have many contributing factors, arising from a combination of biological, psychological, and experiential components, often influenced by cultural context. These factors may interact with childhood trauma or abuse, leading to atypical sexual preferences, such as an attraction for inanimate objects or non-conventional situations. Such preferences become clinically relevant when they cause significant distress, interfere with daily life, or result in harm. Some genetic predispositions may increase susceptibility to atypical sexual preferences or rigid behavioral patterns. Alterations in specific brain regions that are involved in sexual impulse regulation or pleasure have been associated with paraphilias. Also, childhood experiences that link arousal to unconventional stimuli can create a lasting connection between the stimulus and sexual excitement. Physical, emotional, or sexual abuse in childhood is a significant risk factor, potentially altering sexual development and attachment systems. Some psychodynamic theories, like Freudian, suggest that fetishes or other unusual preferences may emerge as defensive strategies to manage anxiety, sexual fears, or distress. Characteristics such as impulsivity, difficulties in emotional regulation, or obsessive-compulsive tendencies may facilitate the development of atypical sexual patterns. Plus, cultures with strict sexual restrictions or particular taboos may influence the formation of atypical preferences, shaping what is considered arousing or forbidden. Finally, there's also the factor that early or intense exposure to sexual content, especially online, can reinforce atypical fantasies or behaviors, creating associations between specific stimuli and sexual arousal. How can we treat them? When a patient presents problematic sexual behavior, a detailed sexual history is usually taken to identify the origin of the paraphilia and link it to current symptoms. In this way, you can understand the origins of your behavior and get control over it. In some cases, therapeutic intervention may involve negotiations or compromises between partners regarding the management of the paraphilia within the relationship. For example, after an incident of transvestism, a couple agreed to shop for clothing together. In another case, the couple established the frequency of indulging in the paraphilia. Other therapeutic approaches include integrating pharmacological treatments. Scientific literature indicates that combining pharmacotherapy and ongoing psychotherapy is particularly effective. In several cases, SSRIs have been effective in reducing obsessive-compulsive sexual behaviors. Additionally, in patients with pedophilia, gonadotropin-releasing hormone agonists have been used to suppress testosterone production. But what's the difference? Well, kink is an umbrella term describing non-conventional sexual behaviors which, unlike fetishes and paraphilias, are not essential during sexual activity. While fetish is a descriptive term for sexual interest in a non-erogenous object or body part that may be central to sexual activity. And paraphilia is a descriptive term for an intense, clinically relevant sexual interest. It is essential for sexual activity and often involves non-consensual elements. It may cause distress, risks, and harm to oneself or others. So, understanding the distinction between kink, fetish, and paraphilia allows for a more informed approach to sexuality. Most atypical sexual preferences are harmless, but only if practiced consensually. However, when behaviors cause distress or risk, it is important to consult qualified professionals. Knowledge and awareness are essential tools for safely experiencing one's sexuality.